how Hinduism inspired pop culture avatars. And I can't say I know entirely about this because the cover has the blue people from the Avatar film. They have Aang from The Last Airbender. And yeah, it's just about how I think the term avatar comes from India, but I think everyone's kind of just used it however they want. Because for me, when I used avatar, it was in the mindset of, oh, my game avatar. It's my character in the game. It's who I'm embodying at that point in time. But yeah, I don't know. But I do know the word kind of originates in India, in Hinduism.
This is a graph tracing the journey of the word avatar across the pages of English literature from the 1800s to today. Notice in the late 1990s, the word exploded in popularity. By then, avatar had already become part of gaming and internet culture, referring to a user's character in a game or their image on screen.
Like I said, you're playing your avatar. It's someone that you puppeteer. It's someone that you can embody. It's your character. It's your character. That's why I think in like the Avatar movie, that's why it's called Avatar. He's literally playing that character. It's not his real body. His real body is in a pod, but his avatar is out there. That's why.
In one of those Web 1.0 forums. Then in 2005, Nickelodeon published the hit animated series Avatar, The Last Airbender, in which the Avatar spirit is an entity that reincarnates within different humans throughout history, each one becoming the Avatar, an individual who maintains the world's balance and harmony. Then in 2009, James Cameron's movie Avatar was released, quickly becoming the highest grossing movie of all time. In the movie, an avatar is a biologically engineered body that humans control remotely. These are all kind of conceptually related. An avatar refers to a person or entity being represented or embodied in a different form. Me as a little cartoon figure, Sergeant Forgettable name in a blue alien body, or the avatar spirit inhabiting Aang.
It's funny how it's just like forgettable figure in a giant alien body, but everyone remembers Aang. Everyone remembers Aang. Everyone remembers Toph. Everyone remembers Katara. Katana is from the stupid Suicide Squad. Everyone remembers, it's just like, you remember something good, but the Blue Smurfs, for some reason, was highly praised. It's one of the worst films ever made because, honestly, well, the Blue People film, that is the death of Hollywood because that is when producers, that is when directors realized they could put whatever slop in front of people, and as long as it looks spectacular, they'll consume it. They'll consume it because it doesn't matter about what the actual story is. It doesn't matter about anything. It just has to look cool.
But while Avatar has only recently become a mainstream word in English, the concept is much, much older, deriving from Hindu scriptures thousands of years old. And while these pop culture avatars share some of the elements that we see in Hinduism, there are some key differences.
Drugs, yeah.
The word avatar comes from the Sanskrit word avatara, which means to descend or cross downward. Within Hinduism, it refers to a divine descent, when a deity manifests in a new form on Earth in order to restore order, defeat evil, and protect the virtuous. As a quick example, Rama, the hero of the epic called the Ramayana, is understood to be an avatar of the god Vishnu in several Hindu versions of the Ramayana. In this story, Rama is the crown prince of the city of Ayodhya, and defeats the main antagonist of the story, the multi-headed king Ravana. Now, avatara is often translated as incarnation, though this sometimes leads to surface-level comparisons with Jesus and the doctrine of incarnation according to Christianity. But the two concepts are very different. The literal translation of descent works just as well, if not better, because the deities are understood as descending from their divine abodes to the material realm. The word avatara is actually closely tied to Sanskrit vocabulary regarding theatrical performances. The word avatarana is a technical Sanskrit term describing the movement of actors from the stage wings onto the stage itself. So one way we can think about an avatara is a god like Vishnu as he takes his place on the world stage. The term itself appears somewhat late in Hindu scriptures, well into the Common Era, but the concept of different divine manifestations stretches back much earlier. For example, earlier texts like the Harivamsha use the term pratrabhavas, or manifestations, and some have even traced the idea to the Vedas, the oldest scriptures in Hinduism. A hymn to Vishnu in the Rig Veda references Vishnu taking on a different form in battle. But the classic formulation of the concept is found in the Bhagavad Gita, which is part of the Sanskrit epic the Mahabharata. The Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue between the god Krishna, who's also considered by many to be an avatar of Vishnu, and the warrior Arjuna, as they discuss things like karma, dharma, and the nature of the self. At one point, Krishna says, despite being unborn and essentially imperishable, despite being the lord of all beings, I resort to my phenomenal nature and come into being through my creative power. I send myself forth whenever dharma declines and adharma is on the rise. Age after age, I come into being to protect the virtuous, destroy the wicked, and reestablish dharma. The word avatara actually does not appear in this passage, or anywhere in the Bhagavad Gita for that matter, but it's generally viewed that he's referring to the concept. When he says he comes into being through my creative power, Krishna is explaining that he can spontaneously manifest in the physical world by his own divine will, and he does this with a purpose, in order to restore dharma, or social and cosmic order, that would otherwise collapse without his intervention. Generally, this means defeating some sort of antagonist that has thrown the world into chaos, like the King Ravana in the Ramayana. Notice that Krishna explicitly says that he's unborn and imperishable. The implication here is that he is beyond the cycle of samsara, the cycle of birth and death. This means that these manifestations are not like other beings who are stuck in samsara. These ordinary beings reincarnate in a different form as a result of their past karma, but an avatara of Vishnu is a new form, resulting from his creative power, not understood to be an illusion, but a real body. Now, I've mentioned Vishnu a few times already because the concept of an avatara or divine descent is most prominent within the branch of Hinduism called Vaishnavism. Vaishnavism is an incredibly diverse constellation of communities and traditions, but generally speaking, Vaishnavas are Hindus who recognize and worship Vishnu, or some form of Vishnu like Krishna.
I wonder how much hate he got in the comments. Because it's funny when you... so many people like to plant their flag and wave it for whatever they believe in. And then when someone tries to generalize, you know, to get the common folk to understand, like me being a common folk, they normally get so much hate for it. They get so much hate for it. And I don't understand why. It's just like they're trying to generalize. They're trying to generalize for the people that don't know anything. But the people who are so, you know, enthralled in like the belief, and they back this horse, or they back this god, or they back this thing, or they back this thing, and they get so offended by it. I'm pretty sure there's hate in the comments. That's always the case. God energy was believed to be too powerful to exist on Earth. Hence, they needed to take avatars so as to do their duty and also not harm the other life forms. Basically a nerf version. So basically like Superman, how, well, he was afraid to ever use his full power until Darkseid. I definitely recommend Justice League, the animated series on, well, back in the day. I think it was like early 2000s. I think it was the Unlimited, where he literally took off his kid gloves and he was beating up Darkseid.
Krishna as the supreme god. Avatars play a prominent role within these traditions because Vishnu is understood to have descended in a series of manifestations throughout the eons. Now, the exact number of these avatars differ depending on the text. Earlier texts like the Mahabharata list 4, 6, or 8 avatars of Vishnu. The Pancharatra Samhitas mention 29, and the text called the Bhagavata Purana gives a list of 22, but then elsewhere says there are countless avatars of Vishnu, just as thousands of rivulets flow from a lake that never dries. But over the centuries, a list of 10 primary avatars called the dashavatara become a widespread standard, listed here on screen. The two most famous are the previously mentioned Rama and Krishna. Rama, as we said, is the hero of the Ramayana. Krishna, an important figure in the Mahabharata and the god of the Bhagavad Gita. Other avatars from the dashavatara include a few animals and an animal-human hybrid, including Matsya the fish, Kurma the tortoise, Varaha the boar, and Narasimha the man-lion. As with Rama and Krishna, these are divine descents with a purpose, to restore dharma in a world gone astray. For example, the Bhagavata Purana includes a dramatic story of Vishnu descending as a fish to rescue the Vedas, which were stolen from the creator Brahma by a demon. Looking at the 10 manifestations of the Dashavatara, some Hindus noticed what appeared to be an evolutionary progression, and in the 1800s they developed a belief that scholars call avataric evolutionism, the belief that the 10 avatars of Vishnu parallel and foreshadow the modern theory of Darwinian evolution. You have a fish, then you have a turtle, a creature that lives some of its life in the water and some on the land, then you have a land animal, and then Narasimha, a literal half-human, half-animal being. So as Darwinian evolution started to be taught in India in the late 1800s, some read this progression from fish to man-lion to Rama through the lens of modern science. Now, looking through these 10 avatars, one might stand out to you as somewhat unexpected: the Buddha himself. Now, the Buddha is not included in all lists of Vishnu's avatars, and he seems to be a late addition, added around 550 CE, if not later, but his status as an avatara is widespread and is mentioned in several different texts. But why would Vishnu descend as the Buddha, someone who denied the existence of Brahman, the Hindu concept of the supreme reality, the source of all knowing and being, someone who denied the divine origins of the Vedas? Well, there is some controversy, and Hindus throughout history have offered different theories. Some texts, like the Bhagavata Purana, argue that Vishnu descended as the Buddha to purposely spread false knowledge in order to destabilize the wicked. The text says, "Then in the beginning of Kali Yuga," which is the age we're currently living in, "the Lord will appear as Lord Buddha in the province of Gaya, just for the purpose of deluding those who are envious of the faithful theist." Other traditions say that he descended as the Buddha to teach compassion, the rights of animals, and nonviolence. In his poem called the Gita Govinda, the Hindu poet Jayadeva writes, "Moved by deep compassion, you condemn the Vedic way that ordains animal slaughter in rites of sacrifice. You take form as the enlightened Buddha." In other words, Vishnu descended as the Buddha in order to promote nonviolence. Others argue that Vishnu descended as a different Buddha. Now, when we say the Buddha, we're generally referring to Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha that Buddhists recognize as the enlightened one of this current age, aka Shakyamuni Buddha. But most Buddhists recognize that there were other Buddhas before Shakyamuni Buddha, and some Hindus argue that Vishnu descended as one of them instead, a different earlier Buddha named Sugata Buddha. And still others reject the idea entirely. The Buddha was not an avatar of Vishnu in the first place, and instead they view Krishna's brother Balarama as the 8th and Krishna as the 9th in the dashavatara. The final avatara is Kalki, an avatara yet to come, who will descend at the end of this current age, Kali Yuga. The Vishnu Purana describes Kalki as endowed with greatness and irresistible power. He will re-establish this whole world in virtue. As the concept of an avatara developed within Hinduism, some philosophers started to distinguish between full avatars and partial avatars, or amshavataras. From this perspective, Krishna and sometimes Rama and Narasimha are considered full avatars and the rest as partial or secondary manifestations. Though some academics prefer a more precise translation than partial avatar, such as a divine descent of a portion of divine substance, with the understanding that the gods only need a fragment of their unlimited divine substance to appear in the human world. And though avatars are most closely associated with Vishnu, other gods are understood to have descended as avatars as well. For example, Gaudiya Vaishnavism is a tradition that recognizes Krishna as the source of all avatars rather than Vishnu. Mahadevi, the great goddess, is said to have descended in a series of avatars as well. In fact, the text Devi Mahatmya describes a whole series of avatars, which may consciously parallel Vishnu's dashavatara. Throughout the history of Hinduism, some leaders and founders of various movements even came to be viewed as avatars themselves by their followers. For example, back in the 1500s, the Bengali saint Chaitanya was considered by his followers to be an avatara of Krishna, a dual avatara of Krishna and the goddess Radha, or a partial avatara of Vishnu, depending on the biographer. And even within the last few decades, spiritual leaders like Satya Sai Baba are viewed as avatars by their followers as well, though never without controversy. As is the case with sectarian movements around the world, these claims are generally not recognized outside of their community of followers. The concept of avatars...
The cults belief, like again, there are always people who will take advantage of groups of people. There are always people who will take advantage of groups of people. Well, how can we forget that Brahmins at one point, exactly. Brahmins at one point in history were I do not know how to pronounce that. Of arrogance. Epitome of arrogance. Is that did I say it correctly? Epitome? Is that what you were saying? Epitome of arrogance? I don't know. I don't know how I'm reading it. To the point where it started to affect others. So maybe he came as Buddha to teach them a lesson. Well, yeah, I mean, that's actually where Buddhism kind of derived from. Wasn't it because they were seeing themselves as elite, that the lower class, the lower caste wasn't allowed to worship the gods because they weren't as pure, that Buddhism actually took effect? It became a much more open thing for people to follow. That's how Buddhism literally took a foot. It's because Hinduism was becoming more elitist and kicking people out that, of course, something was going to take its place. And Buddhism formed from that. Wasn't it like some emperor or some brother or something that traveled around, went up to China, preaching like the love and peace type Buddhist mindset? But yeah, it was for the people that weren't considered the elite. So I don't know if it's about teaching them a lesson, but I think it's about the fact that people will create something for themselves. A lot of it has to do with not the wanting of being known, but having something that's for everyone. And when people start to get excluded, that's when something starts to lose its traction with people. So they'll follow something that does include them.
Even appears in other South Asian religious traditions, and sometimes in surprising ways. For example, let's consider the opening passages of an epic work by the Bengali Muslim writer Syed Sultan. Having taken the form of Muhammad, his own avatara, Naranjana manifests his own portion to propagate himself. From time's beginning to its end, the Creator shall create messengers to rightly guide all peoples. Here, Sultan refers to Muhammad as a partial avatar of God, and refers to God using the term Naranjana, which Vaishnava texts...
Yeah, this is why I don't like it when people start adding sacred text years, decades, centuries after like the original text was written, because you start to step on the toes of other people. And if Muhammad was a divine reincarnation, he's obviously led to a lot of well, I'm not going to finish my sentence. But yeah, like that's the thing. It's just like, it's best to just let sleeping dogs lie. When you've got your sacred text, if there's a massive change, the divine has returned and giving you a message, that's one thing. But like, I think the one of the Vedas was added onto around the time when the Buddhism was starting to take effect, because being a Hindu was seen as like this massive elitist thing. So it was it wasn't rewritten, but it was like introduced that no, it is all inclusive. Everyone serves a part in the story. Everyone is important.
Often used to refer to Vishnu. The scholar Aisha Irani argues that this is not an example of Hinduism and Islam melding, but rather this is Sultan's conscious effort to convert the people of Bengal to Islam. She says by referring to the supreme god in local terms, and by employing vocabulary drawn from Vaishnavism, Sultan was subtly presenting Islamic doctrine as something that was right at home within the broader landscape of Bengali religious traditions. So let's return to that avatar surge in the 1990s.
Isn't that funny how people do that? People will always do that with religion. They'll always mold it to the people they're going to try and take it over. That's exactly what the Romans did with Christianity. They changed a lot of their gods and divine with saints. They just put a saint in front of their original gods. So that way people, if they were praying to Mars, or if they were praying to, Mars was the god of war. Crap, I forgot them all. But yeah, as they were praying to whatever god they're praying to, well, now you just get to pray to the saint. You could still pray to them, but they now have a new name, and they literally integrate it into into the setting. So the Roman Empire still exists to this day. It's the one thing. It's called the Vatican. It has never disappeared. It has never disappeared. As soon as it started to indoctrinate Christianity and became Catholicism, it has never left the earth. Again, there's nothing wrong with it, but at the same time, people will always take religion and mold it to something to make it more appealing to people. Like, what is it? They were the missionaries who went to India and were like, if you become Christian or Catholic or whatever group it was, we'll give you food. We'll give you food. What? That's not what the Bible preaches. That's not what the Bible says. But people, no matter what, they don't care. They don't care.
We owe a lot of that to this guy, the video game developer and entrepreneur Richard Garriott, who's credited for using the term avatar to refer to a gamer's on-screen representation. Back in 1985, he was working on the game Ultima 4, an open-world role-playing game. Unlike other RPGs at the time, Ultima 4 incorporated a deep moral system, in which a player's decisions and actions directly affected their ethical standing in the game. NPCs would treat you differently based on your virtue, whether or not you were acting like a jerk. And because players are always making ethical decisions in the game, Garriott wanted the players to empathize with the character on screen, view the character to be actually you and not some alter ego. And while doing research on ethics for the game, he came across the concept of avatars in Hindu scriptures, and he viewed it as a good analogy. Just like how Vishnu descends down to Earth, the player manifests in a new world. The game's developer Origin Systems even trademarked the word avatar.
Google, it says as Buddhism started competing with Brahmanical faith, Brahminical faith, the Vedic people started claiming Buddha was Vishnu avatar to suppress its effects, and also started adopting non-violence, I'm guessing, like non-aggression, people will always do that. That's why I just, like, when I was learning about like all the scriptures, every time it's like another 5,000 pages is introduced every couple hundred years, because the world has walked away from what the original scriptures were. So it gets reintroduced in a new light, so that way the next generation can be like, oh, well, there's newer versions for me. We read the old one and then we read the new one. It's kind of like the Old Testament. Sure, it's very barbaric. Then you go to the New Testament, it's like, oh, okay, that's a little more everyone's equal. You treat everyone the same. We're all human beings. We all have our faults. Yeah, everyone's a sinner. You can just forgive each other. Like that kind of stuff. It's just like there's always a new version.
avatar for a few years before finally releasing it to the public.
I'm gonna
And it's
get
not
hate.
a perfect analogy. A gaming avatar is virtual, while an avatar in Hinduism is physical. Avatar in the context of gaming also loses that salvific aspect, insofar as deities descend as avatars specifically to restore and uphold dharma that had languished. Nevertheless, the concept of avatars in modern pop culture is a great example of how religious and cultural ideas are adapted and integrated into new and different contexts, sometimes losing nuance and sometimes gaining new meanings, like a
Well, it's I don't think it's that, because this is the one thing that a lot of writers hate. A lot of writers hate, because no matter what you write, people will compare it to whatever religious text. Because every story someone will tell, like, what was it? Shakespeare said there are only 8 stories. Only 8 stories. There's like the typical romance, there's a horror, there's fantasy, there's like only 8 stories. The thing is, because there is so few that no matter what you write, people will be like, oh, that's a parallel, not a parallel, proverb from the Bible. Oh, that's like this character. Oh, that's like Paul. Oh, that's like Vishnu. Oh, that's like Muhammad. Oh, that's like, because everyone will be like putting their own faith to a story, and every writer hates it. Every writer, sure, they might get some kind of, you know, they'll take something from it. Like Star Wars was based off all the stories from Christianity to Greek mythology. All the stories that were bunched into one, because you know what? The hero's journey is the same in every single religious text. Every single one. So it was utilized. It was utilized. But no, it's not a Christian story. It's not a Hindu story. It's not a Mormon story. It's not a Jehovah's Witness story. It's not a Scientology story. It's just a story utilizing the tropes that have been proven time and time again that people relate to, that people can see themselves as. Someone who's a nobody that makes themselves into something. Like the story of David, who is literally like, I think he was the 7th son in the family who was given the throne.
Digital presence. But our digital presence online goes way beyond a profile picture on a website. We all leave a huge digital footprint online, a wealth of personal information scattered across the internet, which you can get taken down with the help of today's sponsor, Incogni. A lot of our personal information ends up in the hands of data brokers. These are companies that collect and sell your personal information to third parties, often without your informed consent. This includes your full name, but also your home address, phone number, and even your employment history, medical history, like, shopping habits, or political affiliation. On the annoying end of the spectrum, this can lead to spam calls, and on the very serious end of the spectrum, it could lead to identity theft. You actually have a right to request these brokers to remove your data, but that would take literally hundreds of hours of your time to research and contact all of them. And here's where Incogni comes in. Incogni reaches out to data brokers on your behalf, requests your personal data to be removed, and deals with any objections from the brokers. All you need to do is create an account, grant them the right to work on your behalf, and sit back and get periodic updates. I've been using Incogni since 2022, and it's pretty cool to see the results over a long span of time. They've removed my data from 158 companies. So if you'd like to give Incogni a try, click the link below and use the code RFB Incogni to get an exclusive 60% off an annual plan. Again, click the link pinned in the comments below, and the code is RFB Incogni. Thanks, everyone.
Nope, nothing else. It's a good thing he ended it with the ad instead of during the whole thing. But I gotta say, it's just like again, as writers, people seem to despise when people compare things to religious texts, because no matter what, it's a story that's been told time and time again. There's a reason why a lot of the proverbs that are spoken in like Hinduism are the exact same that are in Christianity, are the exact same that are in most faiths. They have some kind of parallel with one another. The same kind of story over and over and over again. Why? Because people can relate to them. Why? There is a moral being told. There is actually something there. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm gonna get hate. I'm gonna get hate. But yeah, I mean, I did enjoy that. I did enjoy that. But yeah, the term avatar has existed for quite a while. But then again, if it didn't exist in the original Hindu text, where was its actual place? And like, what term did it come from? But in the end, it's like how we use it now. Most people, they hear avatar, they're not going to think Hinduism. Nobody will. Nobody will. Let's be honest, because it's so indoctrinated into almost everything now. It's just like swastika. Everyone hears swastika. What do they think? The Nazi flag. Like, well, technically the majority of the world will think an actual swastika, you know, unity, love, peace. But the thing is, that's like 2 billion people from India that know its origins, But other than that, outside of the Indian people, it's seen as a term of evil. It's seen as a term of evil, when that's not the case. But it's how the world views it, just like the world views Avatar. Like, I hear it just like, oh, a character, or Aang. I don't think one of the worst movies ever made in Hollywood, which was the downfall of Hollywood. The fact that that's still praised as this elite kind of thing ever created pisses me off and lets me know that Hollywood has been a dead franchise for over 2 decades now. Well, almost 2 decades. I think it came out in 2009. Yeah, it came out in 2009. So we still have 3 more years till it's 2 decades of the death of Hollywood. Oh my gosh. Ugh. Even the concepts of karma, rebirth, Buddhism weren't mentioned of Hindu ones, as back then they were concept of Hinduism. Okay. Hinduism were present, but were vague and underdeveloped and became as complex as today. Yeah. Over time, people will add more to the story. Just like in the Bible, people will read it and they'll get their own interpretation out of it. That's why you'll look, there's Catholicism, which literally has the Pope, which speaks to God, which I think is just ridiculous because everyone can talk to God. But it's like he speaks to God and he can dictate to all the churches beneath him what they follow. They don't always agree on it. But in Christianity, there are like how many different kind of subsects of belief, all kinds of denominations that fall underneath the category of Christian. Like there are the ones that speak in tongues, like they'll just babble nonsense, and apparently everyone understands the nonsense that's being spoken because they claim God is speaking through them. There are the faith healers that get paid a ton of money to just smack someone on the head and say you're healed. Like there's a ton of things out there. And then there are also the cults, which get created, which are another subsect. But yeah, it's everywhere. People will take advantage, but it's about finding the best shoe that fits you. Yeah, for me, I'm not a very, outgoing person. I don't like leaving the house. I'm a house body. I leave for work. I leave to go to the store. I leave for doctor's appointments. That's it. And maybe if I want to go out with my wife somewhere, but that's it. I don't really like to leave. I'm a homebody. I'm pretty sure swastika was used in a lot of other cultures. Yeah. It was heavy in Japan, in China, but after World War II, it's really taken a back seat. They still use it in Japan sparingly, very sparingly, because how I discovered what it was is I was watching Yu Yu Hakusho, and it was like, why does that person have a Nazi symbol on his forehead? So guess what? At 9 years old, I looked it up. Found out the original meaning of the swastika. And I remember talking with my mother after the fact. It was like, hey, did you know that the swastika actually stands for love and peace? That its original purpose was to stand for like unity? And my mother was like, well, now it stands for a sign of hate. It's like, okay. But it was fascinating. So I literally saw it like an offensive word for gays, where it used to mean a bundle of sticks, then it went to meaning a cigarette. Now it's offensive word for gay people. I mean, terms do change, but are there places that still use a bundle of sticks or call a cigarette by that word? Maybe. I don't know, but who knows? Terms change, and some people always hold on to the original meaning. Some people change it over time, just like Avatar. How many people see it as a sign of Hinduism? I don't know. I couldn't say.
You guys got a video? Why was so bad?
don't forget to like and subscribe.
Wait, wait, Sandra.